Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm Zelp and today we are going to take a look at Xaku. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've never played him before. Word on the Discord is that he has been reworked. So I'm going to try and see what's new about him. I purchased him. In fact, I just got him. You can see over here it's rank 0 and I got him from the market. I did not farm for him because being a partner in the past is that DE kind of gives us some amount of plats occasionally. And those plats cannot be traded with other players, so its real use is just really purchasing things off the market. And because I don't have that much time to be farming it, I've decided to buy the Demos bundle and also the Xaku collection bundle. First thing I really want to know is gender. I'm not really sure, but yeah, before I can do any testing and talk about it, I really need to first understand how its ability works. We're gonna rank her up by doing our dailies and whatever that I need farming for. And then after that, I'm gonna go to wiki to double check on her abilities to see if what I think her abilities actually do is what I think it does. And then after that, we'll go into the simulacrum and try things out. So I guess I'll see you guys later. And we're back with a max out Xaku. So I'm gonna talk about her and her abilities in general. I do feel like there are a lot of potential in very unique and interesting ways to play her. But I just don't have the time to go into detail with that. So right now, let's just talk about her passive. Her passive basically gives you the ability to dodge. So it has 25% damage reduction on AoE attacks and chance to avoid incoming damage, weapon damage. Also again, 25%. And if you were to use his ultimate, you'll actually bump that up to 75% instead of 25%. So just like that, her survivability is quite decent, and her ability to create void procs that creates this small little magnetized bubble thing, and it will attract bullets. It acts as a shield in a way. Now I do feel like there are a lot of questions with this passive, like how would it work with area dodge. I did see it in wiki that says that it does not stack, but how does it not stack, if that makes sense? So is it just that it doesn't add up, it doesn't multiply, or does it just take the one that is larger in value? So that's something to test, but it's also something that's really hard to figure out. Okay, so I realized that I had mods on and you couldn't really see the exact value. So right now I've removed the mods so you can see. So our next ability that we're going to talk about is her first ability, which is called Xata's Whisper. And what it really does is just it gives you extra void damage to your weapons. And I don't think it works on abilities, maybe just certain abilities, but if I'm not mistaken, it's mainly focused on your weapons. And the fact that you're dealing void damage, you also have a chance to do void procs, and that proc chance is being determined by your weapon. Now one thing over here that I'm not really sure is how does it weigh in terms of which one would proc, because you gain an extra void damage by this amount of percentage. Will you take that as a pure void damage and then try to weigh it with all the other damage types? If that's the case and you want to proc a certain proc, let's say corrosive, you might want to tone down on your ability strength. Now since we are at the topic on the first ability, which gives you void damage and void procs, I would like to talk about what's the difference between a magnetize and a void proc, because someone actually asked this in the chat down below in my last video. So some of the obvious differences is that max bubble will explode when the enemy dies. It does magnetic damage. It has a tick damage within the bubble as well, where else void procs does not. Now one thing that not many people know is that magnetized bubble pulls enemies, but void procs does not. So if I were to use my first ability, I have void damage now. I created this bubble. They are fairly close together, but you can see that it's not attracting this enemy to him. Now because the bubble is really small, my bullets is trapped within, and as you can see and also discussed in my previous video, the existing bullets cannot hit him more than once. So it's just basically like that. So it's not really as good as a magnetized, because for a magnetized it pulls the enemy in, and when they are really close together, each bullet can do more than one damage. So just to show you an example, over here I have the Ferox, which has the ability to pull them together, and then I'm going to use the first ability again and then shoot him. So you can hear the damage or the bullets hitting them both, and you can actually see it disappearing upon hitting them as they get closer together. There you go. Now it's happening. So without a way to pull them together, you won't be able to have this advantage with your bullets. So technically you don't really need to rock a beam type, or is it called particle type, high punch through weapon, because it's not really going to help you much unless you can get them together. So this is where maybe the helmet system is going to help you, because if I'm not mistaken, the Nidus, he has the ability to pull them together, and you can actually switch that. I haven't unlocked my helmet system yet. I'm still working on it, and when that happens, there's so many things that I would like to try, and I hope that you'll be here to witness it. Okay, so we have the next ability, which is called Grasp of Lohk. I don't know how to pronounce these things. Anyways, what it does is that it pulls enemies' weapon to your side, and then they start doing void damage and shoot the enemy. Now this one scales with the enemy, because the higher the enemy level, the higher their damage. So when you steal their weapon, I guess the weapon also does a higher amount of damage. So it scales, which is a good thing to know. But if you guys seen two heavily armored enemies fighting against each other, it takes forever for them to kill each other because of their armor. So it's still really hard to deal with armored enemies, but we are going to take a look at a very interesting synergy later. The range on this thing by default is actually not that good, so in my opinion you definitely want to bump up your range if you want to use this ability more. And also if it increases the power strength, I believe it actually increases the number of enemies or number of targets that you can steal the weapon from. Once the target has his weapon stolen, it will stay melee, or rather disarm, permanently. So that is also really good use for it. Now I'm not going to show you a demonstration right now, but we're going to go on to the next ability and then we're going to come back. So over here, just looking at this, you cannot really digest what exactly does each part does. So it's very similar to like the Ivara type Warframes, where although it's one ability, you can switch between 3 different types. So there's the Accuse, the Gaze, and also the Deny. So in a short summary, the Accuse makes them sort of like a radiation proc. So they will end up being on your side, and they can fight other enemies that's not accused. The difference between this and a radiation proc is first of all the color, I guess, but also they don't hit each other. So if you were to use Accuse on, let's say, 5 enemies and there are no other enemies around, they don't kill each other. So that is one of the difference. If it's a radiation proc, they'll start fighting each other. If it's a radiation proc, the enemy has a potential to shoot you instead of shooting another enemy. Next we have Gaze, which is one of the interesting abilities. It stun locks one enemy, and then the surrounding enemies will be inflicted with some kind of aura that reduces its defense, and I believe shield as well, but it's not written here as shields, only written as defense. Now the cool thing about this is that the defense reduction can be increased with power strength. So right now it's 50%. If you increase your power strength by 100%, so if you have like 200% power strength, you can actually make this to 100%. This is pretty much equal to an enemy not having any armor, and that is huge. And finally we have Deny, or Denny, I don't know, but what this does is just a burst of damage, which I feel like it's one of the abilities that you'll most likely use less of. But in my opinion, in Warframe, abilities that deals damage that does not involve a large area is often not really usable. And also you have to take in mind that this is the 3rd ability that costs 75 energy to cast. So it feels like the energy cost and the damage that you could do on maybe just a few enemies is just not really worth it. Now before we go to the last ability, which is her ult, we're going to talk about Gaze, and we're going to try and mix it up with this one, which is Grasp of Lohk. I have one build over here. It's just my testing build. It's not the build for him specifically. Right, and then we can actually we can summon more to make this presentation a little bit more interesting. I just hope I don't die. Let's get 8. Okay, so we are going to use our first just to increase some damage. Okay, then we are going to use the 2nd ability to steal all their weapons. Then we're going to use the 3rd ability to remove their armor. And you can see they're all dead, except for this guy, because this guy was locked. right, you can actually see that when he becomes this form, he does not take any damage. Now I feel like this combo is really good, but there are some problems that I can think of that when you are in a scenario that you want to use it. So let's say you're fighting a bunch of Grineers and then something really strong come into play. You don't want to use the gaze on the one that's really strong because you want to kill them. So therefore you want to aim at something weaker that's close to him that is not already dead. And I feel like that might be a condition that might drag the situation, which could lead to your death. But other than that, I do find this combo really good. So I'm gonna pause it so that we can have a better look at it. Okay, so what you want to do is you just want to steal their weapons with your second ability. Okay, and start shooting. So you can see it's shooting at 500 plus. But the moment you use this ability, it starts shooting at 18k because they have no more armor. Now the one that's being used, as in the one that I gaze upon, by right does not take any damage right now, but somehow he does absorb a certain amount of damage. You saw 16k there, but he's taken a lot of shots. So I don't really know how that 16k come into play. Anyway, since we're here, let me just show you the other two types of ability for his or her third ability. I still don't know if it's a guy or girl, but anyways, it looks like this. This one is accused, and he turns white, and he kind of works for you, I guess, in a way. So he will not attack you, but you can attack him. So you can kill him. And then the last one is the beam. So let me show you how the beam looks like. Oh, I don't have enough energy. Oh, there you go. Balls. Let's try to get a headshot and see if we can kill him in one shot. Nope. 291 damage. Level 160 though, so something to take note of. Now, the enemies that are hit with your laser also gets float up, and it kind of gets immobilized for a certain duration. The duration is actually listed over here as well. Deny. There you go. Duration 14 seconds, and you can up that duration if you have more duration mod. Okay, now we come to the final ability, her ult, which is called the Vast Untime. What it pretty much does is that it explodes herself, right? And whoever that got hit by this explosion, they will take extra, I think extra 50% void damage. Yeah, so in wiki it says minus 50% void damage vulnerability, so it becomes more vulnerable to void damage by 50%. Now other than that, it increases your dodge chance from your passive, and it also slows the enemy. But the cool thing about this ability is that it kind of time stops all your other cooldowns. I wouldn't say cooldown, it's more like the duration. So all the duration that your ability is under gets stopped. So one of the ways that I've been playing so far, which is not a lot, right, is that I'll use my first ability and my second ability. Okay, so wait, there's nothing over here. Let me go over here to get some. So once I get the weapon, you can see that the duration of me holding the weapon is very low. So this is the part where I would use my ult. So once I get a good amount of weapons, I'll use my ult, and then everything just freezes. And the ult lasts longer than your second ability, and that's where you can actually hold more weapons for a longer period of time. So I really mainly use this ability to work with my second ability. So it's always like the second ability, then I use my ult. And I've been playing it this way so far. And I believe that because the second ability, the guns are actually dealing void damage. So your fourth ability actually also assists by increasing the gun's damage. So the synergy here is really second ability, then fourth ability. And if you can, and if there are armored enemies, then you use your third ability, gaze, and remove all their armor, and they just take a lot of damage and they die. So let's see again how much damage they would take. Before, without using our fourth ability, they took about 18 damage per hit from the guns. So let's see how much this time. Kill all. Okay, so we're gonna do what I just showed you. First, we're gonna take their guns. Take their gun. We're gonna activate this so it does more damage, and then now we're gonna use our gaze on this guy. And we don't have enough energy. Okay. 27k. Did I miss a 0? I don't think so. Yeah, 27k damage, which is a lot. And if you really think about it, that is about a 50% increase. Okay, now let's have a short discussion. We know that it's really good against Grineer because it can strip all armor. It could probably get you to really far endgame if you can find a way to survive or have someone help you in the survival. I do feel like this Warframe is more of a melee type Warframe. The reason why is because the range on the third gaze is not very big, right? So you kind of want to lure enemies there. And you can't really lure enemies to a specific spot if you're really far away because they're going to head towards you. Another reason is because being able to do void damage, and if you're on your melee, one slash can potentially proc multiple enemies with the void damage. It's actually gonna rain, so I need to make this video a little bit faster. So yeah, oops, sorry, I forgot to use it. So when you do a void damage, you see bubbles, right? And because melee can allow you to hit more than one target, if you're in the center of like this mess, attacks from the outside is not going to hit you. So technically it's almost as if you are inside a magnetized bubble and you are somewhat protected. So in that sense, I feel like it's very close to being more of a melee type Warframe than a range type, although being range is also really good. You can just tag them and they get into their own bubble. They can't shoot you because they can't shoot out of the bubble. Her or his fourth ability, the range is also not that great, so therefore you also kind of need to be close to the enemy. And also the fact that you can remove their weapon, which makes you less vulnerable to a range attack. Okay, this is really loud. Makes you less vulnerable to range attack, which means that you can actually go closer. Because the problem with being a melee weapon fighter is that, you know, the enemy might be really far away and then you are over here, and by the time you get there you get hit a few times, and at higher level you might die. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. Let me know your thoughts on this Warframe down in the comments, and then maybe in the future we'll dissect each ability and try different things and try synergies. Something really important that comes into mind is that I need to unlock the helmet system, because when that is done, I feel like we can really find her potential. Another thing is that I don't have all the arcanes. In fact, a lot of the even easy to get arcanes, I don't have them yet. And also the focus school, mine is not complete. So there are a lot of things that I want to test, but I'm just kind of limited at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to my alternate channel. I already said that. Bye bye.